We always land on Georgia, right? In Georgia today, voters are casting ballots for a contest that could see them once again determining which party controls the U.S. Senate. If no candidate gets more than 50% of the vote, the race will go to a runoff. As we have discussed here, we may not know the results tonight or even for a couple weeks. And as Greg Bluestein points out, it all depends on some frustrated Georgia Republicans on whether or not they'll even vote today because they feel candidate Herschel Walker has not earned their vote or their respect. Let's bring in the aforementioned Atlanta Journal-Constitution political reporter and MSNBC contributor Greg Bluestein. He's joining us from Governor Brian Kemp's election night watch party. Greg, tell me what you're hearing and reporting today.
Well, more than 2.5 million people have already cast early ballots here in Georgia. And this is the time of day when both parties' candidates are just antsy because it's really hard to divine what's happening out there on a precinct-by-precinct level. Folks I've talked to say nothing has really changed the underlying dynamic here, but they're looking at exactly what you just said. They're looking at those crossover voters who might be supporting Governor Kemp, but also withholding their support for Herschel Walker. And that could be the difference between a runoff and an outright victory here in Georgia today.
Jason Johnson, I know you have lots of thoughts, and we're low on time, so I'm going to keep my question short. What are your sort of final thoughts on this race in the final hours before the polls close?
I think this is the greatest indicator that we have to always talk about voter suppression. One key thing, it's almost 5 o'clock, right? In the state of Georgia, thanks to Brian Kemp and Raffensperger, they changed the state law so that you cannot get a provisional ballot in Georgia before 5 o'clock. So if you waited in line for 2.5 hours, got there, and they said, oh, there's some sort of mistake, you can't get a provisional ballot here. The level of voter suppression is beyond anything that we saw in 2018. So I think it's completely up in the air. There has been youth turnout at levels we haven't expected. Democrats feel confident. Republicans I've spoken to feel confident. But we can't say that whatever happens tonight is a fair and equitable election because there have been too many laws passed by election deniers to keep people from being able to express themselves.
You know, Greg, it's so interesting. The election deniers were so offensive, they were rejected by Georgia Republican primary voters who picked Kemp and Raffensperger, who, as Jason said, did go ahead and pass and sign into law the election integrity law that was a voter suppression law. How is that changing things tonight?
You know, it's such a tough question because we don't know. It primarily affects these mail-in votes, just as Jason just said, and these absentee ballots. And we won't know the full picture of this until the votes are certified. And so we might not know the full scope of this for weeks. But what Democrats keep on saying is despite this record midterm turnout, it masks some of the underlying issues that you've been reporting, that Jason's talking about, that we've been reporting at the AJC, that could affect the overall electorate.
Jason, I want to know, just beyond Georgia, where are your eyes going? Where are your calls going or texts going? What information are you looking for?
I am shocked. I talked to a lot of my former students in Ohio. I am so surprised at the number of people who say they really think Tim Ryan is going to win. I hear a lot of people saying that there are Southeast Ohio people who just can't stand J.D. Vance. Most people who I'm talking to in Florida say that it's going to be a complete wipeout. And what I've been hearing from organizers on the ground is to keep our eyes on North Carolina.
Wow.
That Sherry Beasley might be a lot stronger than we expected. And I'm surprised. Nicole, a month ago, I thought this was clearly Republicans take the House and Democrats maybe hold the Senate. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's the first cycle in like 4 cycles where I literally don't know what's going to happen. And we may not know for days or weeks because of vote fights and counts and fraud accusations.
Yeah, I want to say I associate myself with your comments. I know nothing. Greg Bluestein, Jason Johnson, thank you so much for wading through it all. It's such a dicey hour in this day.